So as much as I would like to start cutting on the north side, which is the side that's visible from our garden and the chicken area and where we spend most of our time, I'm gonna start here on the south side. I think something to think about when taking on projects like this is where you're gonna get the biggest bang for your buck. Since the intention is to release the canopy and provide as much sunlight for the apple trees as possible, starting on the south side, the more these trees that come down, the more sunlight that's going to get in there. It's going to penetrate deeper during the growing season. So working my way south to north will be more effective, even though it's not, you know, if I have to abandon this project for this winter for some reason, if a big job comes up, or I don't know, anything. At least if I start here, that's kind of the lowest hanging fruit as far as, no pun intended, as far as opening up sunlight in this area. So here's where we'll get started. So I'm going to start with this ash tree. There's some funny business going on with this one. You can see there's a little split right here, and another lead comes up and around. So generally, if you have a split like that, you want to follow it perpendicular to that split. But I don't want to do that because it's also leaning in that direction. I can't take it that way. So if I were to try to come this way, I might hit that apple tree. So what I'm going to try to do is get it to fall somewhere over here. If everything was normal and whatnot, I would probably want to go over there in those bushes, nanny berry. So what I think I'm going to do is first I'm just going to, you know, cut this guy up high just to get that weight off. Because if I come in with my back cut, even if it's down here, if I don't cut that first, this might try to tear out. So first I'm going to take that out, and then I'm just going to treat this as a normal tree if it didn't have this little split right here. And also I'm going to leave, when I'm making my back cut, a little more hinge on that side than this side. So hopefully, even though it wants to fall right there, it'll pull it a little bit this way. Let's see if I got what it takes. Alright, so there's the part that I just cut off, and I piled the brush over there. I'm using that as a kind of a target. That way, if I get this tree to fall closer to that than that, once I get up to start limbing that out, I'll just be able to cut them in place and leave them in the pile rather than having to move them again. Some will have to be moved. Here's the brush pile. and most of the crown is in there. It's a little further that way than I was aiming for, but it's better than it falling all the way into those nanny berries, so I call it a success. Let's clean it up. So a little explanation on how and why I do things that might be useful to other people doing this kind of work, or, you know, just cutting trees on your own property or whatnot, is when I cut down a tree, the first thing I do is I start taking all the small limbs off and piling them up. You could chip them or do whatever you got to do with them. Then the smaller diameter, you know, parts that could still be used as firewood, I just cut off into 4 to 8 foot sections, and then I'll dice them up into firewood rounds on a sawbuck. I've showed that in one of my other videos, what a sawbuck is, but just look it up. It's really easy and cheap to make one. And then when I get to the bigger diameter, anything that's hanging off the ground like this, I'll usually just run my tape down every 16 inches, make a mark or a small cut, and then buck it right off the ground. Or right onto the ground, rather. You know, if it's touching the ground and it could pinch my saw, I'll approach it differently, but anything that's hanging loose like this or that other part over there, I'll just run down the line and cut it into firewood immediately. I forgot my tape, so I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to cut them into manageable sizes and then put them up on logs to keep them dry, and then I'll, you know, batch them out into firewood later. But that's usually why I do that. Just makes it easier and quicker and more efficient, but today I'm just trying to get some trees down. I like to have everything in nice piles as I go, rather than creating a mess and cleaning it up later. But a lot of the time that means moving heavy logs by hand. So I just wanted to give an example. So when I'm trying to move big logs like this, rather than bending over and just trying to pick it up with sheer might, what I like to do is I just pick up one end of it, so you have as much leverage on it as possible, and then instead of bending down and using my back, I use my thigh as a fulcrum, and I just let it fall down, pick it up, and let it roll away. Oops. But anyway, then you're really only using your muscles to carry it rather than picking it up. And picking it up is usually the hardest part. Maybe that's helpful, I don't know. This one's leaning back. I'll bet you I could push it over though. I'll just bring over a wedge just in case. All right, I got my face cut and my wedge in. I'm gonna be able to push this over. I wasn't wearing my helmet, I was wearing my headphones. And good thing I look up and I saw that dead branch in the cherry tree is caught on the ash tree. So there's a good chance when this tree goes over, that's gonna fall. So I looked up when I cut that last one, but I didn't look up again, and I wasn't taking it very seriously because it's a small tree. But sometimes a small tree could still be a big danger. So don't be a dum-dum like me and always look up. All right, I'm feeling frisky, so I'm gonna try to call another shot. That ash tree right there, it wants to fall right towards me. I want to get it on that brush pile, or at least closer to it. You can see it's got a little bit of a lean. And obviously it was looking for the sun, so all of the branches are going in that direction. But I'll bet you I can get a little closer that way with a wedge or two. Alrighty. Got her close to the brush pile. Almost messed up my fleece though. Alright, there's the one I just fell. I'm just gonna put this guy in that hole between those two apple trees, just to the left of my little sled. Perfecto. It's not the easiest spot to clean up and bring the brush to, but there's not that much brush, and I really didn't want it to hit any apple trees. Alright, so next up is this ash tree right here. You could see for a moment in time this apple branch was growing into this ash tree, and that branch had later died. But I want to take this tree that way, but this branch is going to get in the way. I'm trying to do as little to these apples right now as possible, but this whole branch is completely dead anyway, so I'm going to make a cut here, a little further back, eliminate that. It is a little bit tangled up there, but I think I could push it that way. Let's see. That was exactly what I wanted. All right, so we made pretty good progress today. That apple tree right there is pretty much, you know, cleared all the way around. Here's where that line of ash trees were that I took down. So I think what I'm going to do now is I can't stay too much longer. I got some stuff I have to do this afternoon. I'm just going to start working on taking out some of the small stuff. That way when I take out the bigger trees, I have a clear path to them and a nice exit away when they're falling. It's got to get done anyway, so just like the smaller honeysuckles and hawthorns and whatnot. But I am going to, I think, save some of these younger hawthorns. I figure if I'm going to make this like a apple orchard area, it's worth trying to top work some pear scion onto these hawthorns. The bigger ones that are too hard to manage, I'm just going to take them out. But the younger ones, I'm going to try to top work some hawthorns onto. I did some down there last year. I had a pretty low percentage of them taking. And I was talking to someone that said, you know, for every 10 that you graft, maybe 2 will survive the first year. And then maybe 1 of those will survive the next year. And then eventually you'll get pears from them. So it's a pretty low rate of success. And so far that's what I've been seeing. But it only takes a couple of minutes. So I'm going to try to keep doing that over here. And if we get some, we get some. If not, I'll take them out later. No problem. All right, so I definitely brushed that apple tree more than I wanted to, but looks like the only thing it took out, no, yeah, that was still alive. That stinks. Well, I said I was only going to take out small trees, and then I started rushing and saw this one and said I could still do this one today, and I made a mistake. So that's when mistakes and accidents happen, is when you're rushing. So that's a good sign to slow down. So that's going to be a wrap for today. Pretty good start, just in a couple of hours. Opened up a lot of light, still plenty more to go. At least I got some of the small stuff out of the way.
Who's hungry?
Got some on you.